Hey, it's Dave Ebert, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gifts of Glory podcast. Really excited to have my friend on. This man is a writer, an author, a choreographer, a singer, a dancer, an actor, a husband, a father. Pretty much anything that a man can do on this side of eternity, this man does. And I'm talking about my good friend Ted Williams. We met a few years ago at an event called Shoutouts. And Shoutouts is a worship and arts conference for Christians who do all sorts of creative arts. And it was really great to get to see and get to know Ted at Shoutouts a few years ago. And since then, I've been performing with him in different productions, video shorts. And I'm just really proud to know him, really proud to have him on our podcast to talk about the different projects that he's involved with. But before we get into the podcast, I want to remind you about PureFest, which is what I'm involved with. That's one of my big projects. And with PureFest, what that is, it's a faith-based improv and sketch festival for improv and sketch teams and performers from all over the nation. We'll have people who are performing coming all the way from Knoxville, Tennessee, from the Atlanta, Georgia area, Chattanooga, Tennessee, here in the Chicagoland area, Michigan, Milwaukee, potentially Denver again. We're hoping that the group from Denver will be back. But right now, as we're getting the word out, we're hoping to partner with businesses. Whether you're locally here in Lockport in the Chicago area or you're a national company and you'd like to make a tax-deductible contribution to help PureFest go, we would love to speak with you, and we'd love to chat with you about how we can then promote you as we promote PureFest. Because events like this, they take money. You want to do posters and billboards and flyers. You want people to know that this event is happening. Because we've got the talent, we've got the amazing people coming from around the country, but we want the people in Chicago and around the world to know about PureFest and want to come out. So we're looking for business partners who are willing to make a tax-deductible contribution to making PureFest happen. And when you do that, we will go out of our way to make sure that the world knows that you are involved and that you have taken the step of faith, of trust, to believe in this venture. We're in our second year. We're really excited about what's going to happen this September 27th and 28th at PureFest 2019. The night of the 27th in September, that's a night of fellowship and fun and an improv jam for the performers. And then all day Saturday afternoon on the 28th of September, we're going to have different acts from around the country performing. And tickets at the door are only going to be $10 as a suggested donation. And don't let the suggested donation at the door be prohibitive. If you have a family of 20 people, it's okay. Bring them and pay what you can if you can. It's not a problem. We just want people to come and enjoy an afternoon of clean entertainment that's family-friendly and get to experience live theater without having to worry about what you might have to explain on the way home, because you might get that in pretty much any other live theater, especially in a live improv theater. So we just want that special day for you. Now, getting back to the podcast, Ted Williams is an amazing guy. He's got his hands in so many pots. He's got so many different projects going, and we're really excited about his upcoming project, 1619. We're going to get into that in the last half of the podcast, but first, let's get to know Ted Williams right here on the Gifts of Glory podcast. I am joined now by a man who wears many, many hats. Yeah. He's a professor, he's a minister, father, husband, author, writer, director, actor, dancer, improviser, singer. We're talking about none other than Ted Williams III. Ted, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dave, what's going on, man? That's a bit overwhelming, those titles. I said, whoa, who is that? But I guess you were talking about me, so okay. Hey, man, I don't know how great I am at all those things, but I'll take those titles. That's fine.
Well, you've definitely been credited with them. You're the writer of Torn, which is was a huge production a few years back, and then you've also written several things that you and I have done together. Our history dates back to Shoutouts 2014, and it was a little bit over a year later that you called me about doing some murder mystery.
Yes, absolutely. And we had a lot of fun. I don't know if you want to start talking about that now, or I can wait, but definitely would love to share about the murder mystery effort and how much fun that is, and how much fun it'll be as we continue, because we're definitely not done. We're just on maybe a little hiatus right now.
Well, let's jump right into it because
Okay.
we met at Caritas during class, and you took my information, and I never followed up, but then heard from you, like I said, about a year later, 2015, to do some murder mystery, which, there may be some within the body of Christ that may bristle at the idea of doing a murder mystery, but it was a lot of fun, and it definitely, for me, one of the first things I remember is the fact that I did not audition well for the play.
I would agree, but that's okay. God is bigger than that. It probably wasn't your best, but I had a hunch, and call it the Holy Spirit, call it intuition, but I had a hunch that you were better than that, and you definitely were. You were much, much stronger, and I found that when you got in front of a live audience, when you really came to life. And so that's, blessedly, that gamble paid off.
Well, I was definitely high risk, high reward, I think.
Yes, absolutely. You were definitely high reward, and I can tell you after the first show, man, you connected with the audience, and you you came to life. And I really enjoy working with you and some of the other actors that we deal with, because you have such a great gift for improvisation, and really just sort of finding the nuances of humor that exist in the room when you're dealing with people in these situations and that sort of thing. And I think, for me, whatever show I do, I'm a performer too, but I love to get people around me who are better in whatever area it is. And I think that, you yourself, Christine Houston, that we work with, and some other folks, you guys are hilarious. All I got to do is get in the room with you all and just kind of get out of the way, So I really enjoy that.
And those times that we're together, the performance is always probably the most fun part, but a very close second are the rehearsals of getting together and just riffing and seeing what we can create that might translate to a good stage performance. Absolutely.
And once again, the process. So what we do in this Mystery Dinner Theater show, and so I'll take a step backwards. So years ago, I was asked to create a murder mystery show for a bed and breakfast resort in the Chicago area, and I'd never done it before. I was actually in graduate school at the time and doing some other stuff, and pull the show together. I remember some nights I was studying for tests and doing it, in between, scenes and stuff for the show. But it worked out well, and we were highlighted on Channel 7, ABC 7 at the time, and I found that I really enjoyed the genre, if you will. But what we do, I think, is maybe a little unique, that we start off with an outline of a production, but then we allow for, we purposely write in places and spaces where the improv can happen, so that we kind of know the beginning, we know the middle, we know the end, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in between. And so for me, in that way, it's actually not even true improv, right? So it's not a true improv show. I've seen true improv shows. I know you do true improv with your organization. But this is more sort of guided improv, right? This is more sort of scripted improv that allows for, we have script, but we really allow for the actors to do what they do. And so it's been a lot of fun. We've done the show. We've traveled with the show. I've been doing that particular show for, I think we first did it in, I want to say 2001 maybe. And since that time, we had at one point a contract with a hotel down in Bloomington, Illinois. We would go down there and do it once a month. We've been featured on ABC 7 here, as I said before. I've done a little traveling with it, and we were at the Southeast Hotel for a couple of years, and we did dinner there, and then we moved to the space in Dalton was when I met you. And we're definitely going to get it back going again. It just, in the midst of, as an artist, you can only sort of move in so many directions at a time. But I found that the audiences, because they were able to be engaged, it's something that's golden there for them. And I find that, like yourself, we enjoy them as much as they enjoy us. And to your point, the rehearsals are a blast, and you just, you're making magic together, and you're just hoping and praying that someone will think the silly stuff that we come up with in rehearsal is as funny for them. And, 9 times out of 10 it is. And so I can tell you that it has brought much joy to my life just on the idea of being able to be around all of the crazy folks that we end up working with. Yeah.
So your your company is called Third Dimension Performance Group, and that's where Torn came from. That's where the Murder Mystery group came from. So what, just kind of going back to the beginning, what is Third Dimension? What is the mission, the purpose, and the vision?
Sure. So the Third Dimension Performance Group was born out of just this desire to make spiritually poignant art that was inspiring and artistically dynamic, and it was fun. And my journey in this work has been very interesting because I started off really acting when I was a preteen. My mother got me an agent when I was 12, and I started doing commercials and video work and that sort of thing, and I loved it. But I was also in school, and I was playing sports as well, and so I wasn't able to. I mean, we were in Indiana, so we were an hour and a half from Chicago, and I would go we'd go to school, and I'd drive to Chicago for an audition, and come back, and then do homework and go to practice, something like that. And so it was challenging, but I loved it. And blessedly, it wasn't so horribly consistent that it was an impediment to my schoolwork. But when I got saved in college, I really stopped acting for a period of time because I just felt that it wasn't glorifying God, honestly. And I felt that some of the stuff that I had done before when I was in high school, I had done some things with sexually suggestive work I had done already in high school. It wasn't, some of it was even for educational purposes, like I did some videos around sex abuse, stuff like that. But even then, I still felt like I was doing things that, I was, uncomfortable with. But I also wanted to really go into acting at that point. I almost didn't even go to college. But when I got saved in college, I stepped back and I said, well, I don't know that I really want to do this anymore. Maybe I have the wrong motives. A lot of actors want to just be famous and that sort of thing. And in addition to the work that I was talking about, that wasn't to me as glorifying of God. So I stopped. And I had our campus minister, I was at Rutgers University in New Jersey. Our campus minister, his wife, was a performing artist herself. And she had worked in New York, doing a lot of the productions there. And she had been saved and reached out to and connected with Christ through a ministry for artists. And so she was the first person to tell me, hey, you know what? You don't have to make a choice between doing this artistic work and being a Christian. And so she really inspired me to do that. And she connected me with some other artistic folks who were saved. And it just was amazing to me. And so what happened from there was I began to learn to dance, and I kind of had a gift for that, but didn't know I did at the time, and began to write. But what happened was that God gave birth to a producer, writer kind of person that I didn't think I was before. I was just an actor before that. And because I wanted to create things that connected with this newfound faith, I felt very much like I had to write and put stuff out. And so that's really what happened. And throughout college, once I got saved, I knew when I finished school, although I was getting a degree in politics and still am very interested in that space and community work, I knew that business-wise, I wanted to be a Christian artist. And so at my last semester of college, I wrote a business plan for the Third Dimension Performance Group as my college project for a business class. And when I graduated, we launched. And so that really was the genesis of it. And since that time, we've been able to do a myriad sort of wonderful, I think, productions and that kind of thing. And, we've had our ups and downs because there have been times that we've, produced consistently, and there's had times we've taken off. But I really have never lost that vision. And it's been, I had that conversation with that woman probably 24 years ago. My heart is still the same. I still want to put out work that transforms people spiritually, mentally, and really kind of counters a lot of the negative imagery and the negative messaging that we see in so much of our entertainment and popular culture today.
That's exactly what Gifts of Glory is all about, is promoting those exact same that exact same heart and that exact same mission, is finding men and women that are dedicated to using their passions to glorify God, to bring people to the kingdom, and to try to make the world a better place, a more tolerable place, because this world is fallen and there's just so much bad news and so much trying to divide us and rip us apart that we need those distractions and we need those things that we can bond over, and entertainment is one of those.
It really is. And like you and I always talk about, particularly with humor, it's medicine for the soul. And there's so much pain out here in this world that we really have got to utilize the gift that God has given us to uplift people. But to your point, there are a lot of folks out here who are doing artistic work. Our country, our nation is full of creative people. But even as I sit here, I'm watching the Tonys tonight and kind of looking at what they're doing. I find that so much of the work that's being done is not just being done to not being done to glorify God, but I don't really feel like it's being done to sort of do anything other than make some artistic statement. And I feel that if you're going to have people come sit and you have their attention for an hour and a half in a production or an hour and a half in a film or even 5 minutes in a short film, do something with them. Inspire them, educate them, inform them, enlighten them, make them think, do something. And I think, and there definitely is work out there like that, but I do find that too much of our work is, there's a Hebrew word called avin, actually, that I've been looking at when I was doing some study about just the purpose of life and godliness. And this word literally means vanity or nothingness. And I remember being stuck, that word hit me. And I remember thinking, I don't want to live a life like that. I don't want to produce work like that. I don't want to be engaged in things like that. Sort of the vanity nothingness. It's like, man, that was funny, but did it do anything for me other than make me laugh? Or, and you and I both know we can watch, all of the various streaming services that exist. There are thousands of films out there to watch, and you can entertain yourself to death in this country. But how much of it does anything for us other than, we blew up some things and we showed some things? I think that because art is so powerful, we have a responsibility as artists to move people towards being better human beings. And there's no better way to be a better human being than to follow the best human being that ever lived, which is our Lord and Savior.
Exactly. And there is always room for the nothing, the mindless entertainment just as a distraction. But to your point, it's so important, especially as men and women of God, to have a purpose and not just have idle productions out there where where the audience takes nothing from it. Because what have you really done? Because if they come to a show and they sit for the hour and a half or the hour and they walk out exactly the same, then what have you truly done? It's so important to give them something to carry away, and so that they'd either feel better or they would be better. And through like my comedy, my goal is, most of what we do is just clean comedy, but we also play characters, we play real life situations, and our hope is that we'll speak to something in people's lives that will turn a light switch on, so that they can maybe think about it differently, or if at the very least they see that they're not alone in the world. Because when you laugh together, when you enjoy something together that's done with a purpose, then your life you're going to feel better as you leave that room, because you now know that there's more people who think like you, because it takes a lot to get people to laugh at the same thing. There has to be some sort of spiritual mental connection.
That's true.
And
it's funny that you say that, because humor is one thing. Laughter, it can't be fabricated, if you will, right? So people are laughing at what you're doing. Those are genuine responses, and people are not going to laugh. People may clap for you if they're not feeling you completely, but they're not going to laugh. And
Right.
so I think you in the comedy realm, you guys have even a harder job than some of the stuff that I do. My medium, if you will, is dance and theater overall, acting, that sort of thing. And we obviously put humor in, and we've got some musical stuff that happens too. But I can sort of get away, and not that I would try to, but if I'm putting on a dance or something like that, people may be responding, they may not. But if you get up and try to make someone laugh, you either succeed or you don't. There's
Right.
not a lot of in between in that. You know what I mean? So that's you have a tougher job, I think, in certain ways.
Well,
Yeah.
but I do have the blessing of not having to remember lines. All we have to do is find the next point that we know that the audience is looking for, and that can be an
Right.
instant connection. But when it's a play that's scripted or a production that's scripted, there are certain things you have to have happen, and just hope that they work and they're delivered in the right way. So we have the freedom to stop and cut and do different things when things aren't working. In a live production or in a film, you got to just finish it and hope that in the end it pays off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I find, particularly film, to be more challenging in that way. Although you do get to edit and that sort of thing. Once it's out there, and that's it. There's no going back. There's no fixing it. There's no, with a production, you can mess something up and fix it the next night. People may not forget everything that happens, but even when I choreograph dance, there's a huge difference between us choreographing it to be on stage and then sort of choreographing it for video.
Mm-hmm.
For video, they're really video is very unforgiving, and you have to be really, really on point if you're going to use that medium. So, but I think it's a good challenge, though. It really is.
And each medium has its challenges, its ups and downs, and its limitations. Film, if something goes out of frame when somebody's watching it, they can't turn their head and see what was missed. If it didn't make film, it's gone.
Yeah.
With live theater, there is no cut and a retake. So everything's got its challenges, its ups and downs, but the way I look at it is we were created by the ultimate creator in his image. So we too have that creative DNA in our bodies. So all we have to do is trust him to use us to be creative and to do it with excellence. And I think that's one of the things that overall Christian entertainment is getting better about, is not settling for, we're Christian, so that's good enough. They just, I see more and more wanting to be good and not just good enough.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think what you said about the creator is so important too. I tell people all the time, and I've taught courses at some Christian conferences, stuff like that, around this notion of us being creative in the image of the creator. But I think everyone is an artist in some way, shape, or form. It's just that our gifts manifest themselves in sort of the performing arts space. But when I look at, for instance, I've got an uncle who does, he's a contractor, and he rehabs these homes, and they are beautiful. And he has this level of detail that he finds ways to put into the homes that I could not. I'm amazed by it. My middle daughter loves to bake. She's always finding things to bake and create and to sew. I know people that draw. I know people that love to decorate their homes. I know people that love to decorate themselves. Okay, and they're really, really fashion. They're fashion conscious, fashionistas. Those are all gifts to me. And so I don't ever negate anyone's artistic gifts. And I think that there's a quote by Pablo Picasso that says that every child is an artist. The key is to help them to stay an artist when they grow up. And that to me is really something that I want people to understand, because this is not this elite gift that only a few people are able to have and exercise. People are creative in a multitude of ways, whether they write or whether they help do hair or makeup or whatever it is. There are a lot of creative people out there. Our creativity just gets seen in different ways. But I think, once again, being made in the image of God, we all have creativity inside of us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I always tell people that when they ask me how does Christianity or faith work with improv, I say, well, we serve the ultimate improviser. Who else
Hmm.
walked into a blank stage and just spoke in a universe in existence?
Wow. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. It's a very, very good point. So, no, I mean, it's great. I'm enjoying this conversation because it just reminds me of what a cool opportunity we have, what an important task and role that we have. And, I will tell you as well, when it comes to like churches, for instance, I am amazed at how many churches ignore the performing arts, visual arts, given that the culture is so connected to that space. And I'm not suggesting that all churches have to become entertainment centers because that's not necessarily the case. But I do think that when you're living in this visually stimulated age where, it's hard for us to concentrate for 2 minutes because we've got 30 apps on our phone and we can watch, all these various things. I think we've really got to take advantage of that more within the Christian community. We have the best message out there. We have to use the tools that exist, I think, in a greater way. And to your point, some are doing it, but I think we still have a very, very long way to go.
We truly do. And one of the things I think a lot of churches neglect to understand is most people who are like you and me, who are artists, who are creative, in a sense, we're storytellers. And
Yeah.
look at how Jesus taught most of the New Testament. They were by stories, the parables.
Yeah.
And if Jesus taught through stories, then why can't we harness the power of storytellers within the body of Christ to retell those stories in a way that preaches to the new generations? And I think, to your point, not every church needs to be an entertainment center. Not every church needs to have a drama team. But pastors and leaders, deacons, whoever, when you know that you have somebody with that skill set in your body, find a way to encourage them, connect them with people that you know outside your physical church, and you don't be fearful of, well, if I send them to the Baptist church across the street, they're going to leave ours. They
Right.
will appreciate the support that chances are they're not going to leave your church, but they'll also no longer feel like that orphan artist that is harnessing this gift but doesn't know how to use it.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And so, we keep on going and we keep producing. And I hope that, and I hope that one day all of the work that we're doing I'm creating a body of work, I believe, that will hopefully edify someone. Mm. And I have found that, some church spaces appreciate it, but others don't, and that's fine. But it doesn't stop what we're called to do. And so our gifts and callings are not dependent on the approval of sort of one leader or that sort of thing. And that's okay. It really, really is. And you just have to sort of keep on going and push, and God will open the doors that need to be open for the work that you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to backtrack a couple of years. You had mentioned during the opening segment there about how it sounded like your salvation story happened during your years in college. So, if you don't mind, share a little bit about how you came to your own relationship with Christ during college, when that's a time when many people stray from the Word and stray from the Lord, but you actually found the Lord during that time.
Yeah. So I grew up partially in church, I would say, not fully. I mean, probably, we were beyond the Christmas Easter Christians, but probably were in church maybe once or twice a month. And we weren't really officially a part of any church. We would go to different churches and that sort of thing. So I didn't come from a home. My mom definitely planted the seed of God in me, and I will give her, all credit for that, because she did believe in taking us to church. But we weren't sort of, we had a long way to go in sort of developing that, consistency and that sort of thing. But, obviously, my mom has gone on and she's doing that now. It's so funny. She's very active in her church and her drama ministry of all things now these days. But I think it's so cool. And she also gave me the artistic gene, I believe, as well. My dad gave me the business gene. She gave me the artistic gene, which I'm grateful for both. But when I got to college, I really had come to a place where I had everything I wanted in life. At 18 years old, I had gotten an internship with a car company. My dad was in the car business. I had moved from Indiana to New Jersey. I had a full scholarship. I had an internship with an apartment, a vehicle, and an expense account at 18 years old.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in my apartment when I first moved to New Jersey, and I said, okay, now what? Is this all there is to life? And I remember having sort of an Alexander the Great moment, or even a Solomon moment, where, vanity, vanity, it's all vanity. I have all this stuff. What does it mean? Well, I also had experimented very, very briefly, literally in a one-night situation with a friend who had gotten involved with smoking marijuana, and he got me to try, and that, one time or whatever, the old Bill Clinton phrase, I didn't inhale, probably is true. I don't know. I coughed or something like that. But I had to take a drug test when I arrived for my internship. And so I thought that I was going to fail my drug test because of that experience with him that evening. And so I didn't pray a lot, but I prayed that day. And I prayed, God, please, I'm sure many people understand this story. God, if you get me through this, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And that was literally my prayer. And I remember going into work that next day, and they told me that my drug test was clear. There was nothing to worry about. And I just fell on my knees and just thanked God and praised God and said, okay, now I have to go and fulfill my end of the bargain. So I hopped in my car, started driving around that weekend looking for churches to go to. And I found this little church after searching around the whole day, going to random services. I walked in this door. The church service started the second that I walked in the door. And it was as if they were waiting for me. And I felt like the minister was speaking directly to me that day. And he was talking about trying to change the things that we couldn't change and wanting to be great, and how all roads led back to Jesus. That Jesus had the ability to help us to become who we were trying to become. That we that there was no greatness in this life, in this earth, outside of Him. And I remember just being so moved by his words that I wanted to learn more. And so I went and began to talk to the ministry there, joined their college ministry for the summer, and they really taught me the Word of God. I had never really sat and studied the Word of God. And the ministry team and the brothers in the ministry, they just took me in as family and taught me the Word of God. And at the end of that summer, I felt called to stay there. And they offered me a position at that point in college ministry as a student/intern. And the rest was history. I worked for the church out in New Jersey, the church that I was a part of at my college. I worked for them for about a year and a half. And God just began to do so much in my life and to change all the things I told you about with the artistic desires and other desires. And that really was my journey. And I know that God saved me at that point and saved me from myself, because I know that had I not made that decision at 18 to give my life to God, that my life was headed in a very different direction. One that maybe on the surface was going to be okay, but mentally, I had recognized that, I didn't mention this, but that whole sort of drug test thing or whatever, I felt honestly suicidal at that point, because I did not want to let my family or my community down. And so I felt very much, if I do not pass this drug test and lose this internship I was working for Nissan Infinity at the time, I would be embarrassed. I'd embarrass my father, and I would want to live. And I remember thinking about committing suicide. And, God's grace and mercy would have it that I passed everything with flying colors, and He gave me a second chance. And I've never forgotten that. And so on the surface, things were good. But on the inside, I was broken, and God healed me. And I am forever grateful.
And it was one of those situations where, looking back, I'm sure you've realized that your faith was in so much of other people's approval, meeting people's expectations, that even though things were going great, you had this great internship, all this thing going on, you, like you said, you were broken because you needed other people to see you in that position, and then God saved you. And it's also a strong testimony to the fact that you didn't really get up off your knees after passing the drug test and think, you know what, I got this. Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that could have been for many people that they pray and God saves them that one time from that big thing, and then they start thinking, wait, I really didn't need God. Everything's okay.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And it's something that, as a person who's been in the faith now over 20 years, I have to constantly remember that, because God is still saving us all the time. And I have to remember it wasn't me. And that I have to give him the glory and remember that the things that I am grateful for, I did not do myself. And so that's a wonderful reminder, because I think sometimes as we've been in the faith for a longer time, it's easier to forget that.
And that's where Jesus talks in the book of Revelation about remember your first love. When you're in that relationship for many years, like with your wife or with my wife, there are times where you get to the point where you kind of forget the blessing that you have and the gift of that relationship, and it kind of goes dry for a minute, and then something has to kind of jog your memory and remind yourself,
right,
wow, this is a relationship I really need to pour into.
Absolutely. So yeah, and so we all have that journey and that way that God has saved us, and I'm very proud of my journey. And we all have to find God for ourselves. Even as a parent now of 3 children, and I know that their story is going to be different, and I want so desperately to give them my journey and to have things happen when it happened for me and how, and it's just not going to be that way. And I have to prayerfully teach them the right thing, and that they will make their decision themselves to follow and love God. Which is funny, because I was talking to my 7-year-old. I've got a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and 7-year-old. I was talking to my 7-year-old son. So I've got my 7-year-old actually into acting now. So he just did his second radio commercial this week, and I took him down to because he's with my agency. I took him down to do the commercial. This is 2 days ago now. And so we were walking downtown, spending time together after his voiceover session. And I said to him, I really want you, we were talking, you'd be, you're going to teach you to be a young man, all these various things. And I want you to be when you grow up, to be an honest man and to be a kind man. I want you to be someone that loves God. And he goes, Dad, I already do love God. And I go, wow. I said, wow, and that was so powerful to me, because I know that's what I would have said that at 7 years old, And so I just am blessed, and I don't know what his life journey will be with God, but man, I tell you, that is the greatest thing I could have heard come out of that child's mouth at his age. It's the thing I want for him more than anything. And yes, I want him to be healthy and to be prosperous in a variety of different ways, but I want him to love God first and foremost, because God will take care of all the other stuff for him.
Exactly. And even though I'm not yet a father myself, I can just see how being a father in this life to human children is so parallel to what God experiences as our Father in heaven. Just that you want so many great things for your children, but there's still that thing of they have the free will, and you can't force them to love God, just like God can't force us to love him. He can give us everything and show us everything, but it's up to us to make that decision.
Yep, absolutely. And so, and that's that. And that, we talk about art. That makes a great art. Now, it's funny because, and I'll say this here, I know we're on the air, but, you and I have a very humorous relationship. And so as we're talking, I got 4 or 5 jokes that I probably would put a slide in there on you. And I said, well, this is the straight man tonight, so let me not. But, I had picked up on a few. I just want you to know they're there, and I was being the mature one and did not take advantage of some of the opportunities. And I'm sure, that you probably have had yours as well. And so, maybe another time we'll go at it in that way, because when we get together, particularly as you're talking about our rehearsals and stuff like that, we don't miss an opportunity for a good joke, a good one-liner, which I really enjoy.
And sometimes it's one of those things. It's like the Spider-Man line: "With great power comes great responsibility," and you have to know when to use that power.
Absolutely.
So much fun talking to my good friend Ted Williams about acting, performing, the many projects that he's a part of. And one of his most exciting projects is 1619. And we're going to talk about that when we get back to the interview. But first, I want to remind you about our next and final Good for the Soul show at Fountain of Life Church. Haha Men's final show at Fountain of Life Church is Monday, September 17th, 7:15 doors open, 7:30 the show goes on, and it will be our final event there. Fountain of Life going through some transition right now, and to help them with that transition, we're going to step away and find another place to rehearse and to put on these shows. But we want to go out with a bang. We want to first give a huge thank you to Pastor John Cross and his wife Patricia Cross, to the whole Cross family, and to the Fountain of Life Church family. Thank you so much for hosting us for these last 6 years. You guys have been amazing, and we have been proud to be a part of the Fountain of Life community for all these years, and we wish nothing and pray nothing but the best for all of you during this change in Fountain of Life. But we hope that everyone that listens will have a chance to come out Monday night on the 17th. Our charity of the month is ARF Illinois, Animal Rescue Foundation of Illinois. They're a great cause. They help try to save animals who are in high-kill shelters, also providing health care for animals that are injured or old and then need some extra attention. So ARF Illinois does amazing work for animals. I love animals. I love dogs, and I'm just really happy to be able to go out with Good for the Soul by supporting an amazing organization like ARF Illinois. Now, you can find out all these details through our newsletter, and you can sign up for that at newsletter.hahamen.org. That's newsletter.hahamen.org. You get to learn more about what's going on behind the scenes with Haha Men. You get to learn about the update that's coming, the big change that we're about to announce. We're going to announce first to our newsletter recipients to give you the heads up, and then we'll make it public. So be sure to sign up for the newsletter. Be sure to make plans Monday night to check us out live and enjoy the show. It's going to be a lot of fun on Monday night. We'll be back in just a moment with more of our interview with Ted Williams as we're talking about 1619, the amazing project that he's putting together. It's going to debut August 24th, so we hope that you make plans to attend that as well, and we'll tell you why you need to make plans to attend that as we continue the interview on Gifts of Glory on the podcast.
So I'm excited about this new project that's coming up. I know that you mentioned that you wanted to speak about that.
I was going to segue right into that. 1619.
Oh, cool. Yes. So I won a grant from the Illinois Arts Council a few months ago to create a production to commemorate the 400-year anniversary of the first African slaves arriving in Jamestown, Virginia. And so I really began to write months ago, and I'm still working through some things, although our production is coming up very shortly here. So I'm still in the rewriting process, and I've given myself about another week or two to do that. But we are creating an artistic experience to celebrate this journey. And it's a really different kind of show for me, having written Torn and written, which is my personal testimony on stage, by the way, through a musical, which was the journey of Torn. And the Mystery Dinner Theater show and some short films. And, I've done a lot of sort of skits, right, and short plays and that kind of thing. But this was very different because this was a little more, somewhat controversial, I guess, because of the topic and sort of, issues that we'll deal with. But I also think that it's so much bigger than me, and that's what I'm very excited about with this production. I recognize, even from the response that I've gotten so far, that there are a lot of people that want to celebrate, commemorate, and, sort of be moved by this story, which is really the story of the African-American community is really a story of faith and of God's provision even when it didn't look like it. And I would probably liken it to the journey of the Israelites, where God had them in a period of slavery and challenges, and yet they came out on the other side in a dynamic, powerful way. I think I wrote a book called The Way Out, Christianity, Politics, and the Future of the African American Community. I wrote this a few years ago, and I liken that journey to really the story of Joseph most directly. And so I want to tell that story, and I want to show, once again, how in all of my pieces, whether they are overtly Christian or whether they are not, my message of faith is always there. And so even in this show, although this is not sort of a quote-unquote Christian show, please understand that the message of God's provision and the faith that was built in this marginalized population, this African-American community, the last part of this production is all about that faith story and how, without our faith, where will we be? And how God has allowed suffering for people. It's interesting because Jesus says how hard it'll be for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of for camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom. And I think that when people are broken and when they are challenged, they seek God more. And I think that has been the story of the African American community in this country. And I think, unfortunately, like most of America, recently, I think that there have been trends away from that faith, but I am one that believes that we can help retain it through the arts and through media and that sort of thing. And that's really what I want to tell this story, in addition to really searching through this narrative of what it means to be an American for the last 400 years.
And so this is this going to be a film production or a stage production?
That's a stage production. So it is a stage production. I'm looking to, once we do it, to look into some streaming opportunities and that sort of thing. But this is straight stage. We've done a series of short films. You've been in two of the last that we've done. Shameless plug. But so we will look at, after I get through this production, we're looking at the possibility of doing a feature film eventually with Torn, once again, which is that sort of spiritual concept. And so, but this one right now is stage only.
And I've seen you're sharing the posts and the videos with my man Cello and Shannon Stiles. Any other names in this production you want to plug and give them a shout out?
Yeah, sure. So there's a wonderful vocalist that has already signed up for our work. Her name is Leslie Michelle. She's an amazing gospel jazz vocalist. And right now, those are our folks we were hiring. Actually, no, Cicely Reynolds, who is a wonderful, wonderful dancer that we've worked with in a number of productions. She's on board as well. We're going to be hiring one or two other folks. Fortunately, I'm going to be working with my comedy team, which I normally do. I love you and our good dear friend Christine Houston, creator of the TV show 227. So I'm giving you guys shout out too, but we'll be back with you guys on some of the other stuff that we're doing, hopefully, if you're not too busy and important with all the myriad projects you have going on yourself. But yeah, so those are the folks, and really just wanting to create a visually stunning experience for people. And that really is something that I'm very excited about. We've got tributes to Dr. King and Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass and a number of other folks like that in the production to really help us to kind of tell these stories and to inspire people along the way.
And what would your biggest hope be that there would be a takeaway for the audience that night?
So what I want people, once again, I want people to walk away to understand some of the current challenges that we have in our nation and where they come from and sort of some history behind it, to be inspired about what's possible, and to be committed to making our world better recognizing that, once again, as I even shared a little while ago, that this faith journey, that God is so critical to all of this story, and that although we may have sometimes a history in this country, and people around the world who suffer have a history where they feel like God has abandoned them. He never has. And that He's always there, and He's always working for our good, even when we don't see it.
And for me, as you're describing the production, the image I'm getting is, even though it's not, the story is not similar, it's the book of Esther, where even though God is not mentioned, for somebody with a trained eye, you can see the impact and the power of God in play during the entire story.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So 1619 hits the stage, and that is August 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
August the 24th this year, 2019, and that'll be our premiere, and we'll be hopefully doing some travel with the production and some other things, and so we're really looking forward to it. So please, those of you guys who are listening, please come out and tell your friends, and we're going to make some magic on the stage here, and I'm really excited about it.
And it's going up on August 24th, which means that the script will be completed August 23rd.
Let's hope not. You pray that the script is done tomorrow, you know?
So we're
almost there.
Where is this going to be at? I know it's going to be in Chicago. What college was that?
Yeah. It's going to be at Kennedy King College. There's a brand new 300-seat theater at Kennedy King College. It's amazing. We've used also the Venom Theater, which is on the north side of the city, for Productions Torn. So we'll probably go back to the Venom for our second run, which will be in late September, early October. But we're premiering it at the college because I think it's very important. I'm doing some work. I work at the college, and we've got a following there that I think is going to really benefit from this production. So we're excited to launch there and then go from there. We've got some potential engagements in Virginia and some other places. So we're very excited. And like I said, come on out and check us out.
And there's a really great tie-in because August 24th, 4 days before the anniversary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech.
Oh, wow. Okay, here. That's, yes. Yeah. Which is the 28th of August?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, yes. And that's actually, so here's the other piece. The actual anniversary of the first 20 slaves coming to Jamestown, Virginia is August 20th, so it's 4 days before. That's very interesting. So 4 days before the actual anniversary, we do the play, and 4 days after Dr. King's anniversary. Thank you for that. I didn't think about that. So it's a powerful, powerful time. I think it's divine in that way. It's divine. So I'm that's exciting.
And for more information, they can visit your website, tedwilliamsii.com.
Or Ted Williams II, or also known as Ted Williams III. Mr. Ebert. So, but thank you so much. This has been thank you. I mean, this is great. I appreciate it very much.
And we'll also have the link in the show notes so anybody listening can come back to it and find the link to the website. Also, the link to Third Dimension Performance Group.
Yep.
The Third Dimension.
And don't forget about Torn. You know, Torn is still alive. That is my heart and soul, my baby there. And we still do. We're going to be doing a Torn sort of Easter production next year, and so we're always available to come and do some pieces for church services and that sort of thing, which I think is really cool. We come and supplement, sermons and that kind of thing. So Torn, really, I probably have alluded to this multiple times, but didn't express it. But it really is the journey of how we make decisions to follow light over darkness in our lives. And how we all are torn in some way, shape, or form, but God, He sustains us. And as long as we keep our eyes on Him, we will be all right.
Amen. Now, Ted, one of the things I do on my show, which I know that you're a faithful listener to, we do the interrogation. I shoot off 7 quick questions and answer straight from the hip and see what happens. Try to be light and also get get some serious questions in there as well.
Okay.
So, all right, first question. Your biggest fear when you're on stage?
That I'm unprepared.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm going quick, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. What has been your favorite moment as a performer?
Opening night of Torn in November 23rd, 2002. It was amazing, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. What's your favorite sport?
Football.
Favorite team?
The Chicago Bears, of course, man. Come on, that's insulting to ask me that question.
Well,
I better be a Bear.
I thought you may be going, the Scarlet Knights. I didn't know if you still.
Yeah, it could be Scarlet Knights. No, I'm a Bears fan.
All right. Now, question 5. What is your biggest regret as far as your performance career?
I think I probably should have probably pushed Torn more consistently in some of the early years. We toured for a while, and then I began to do some other work and had some artistic insecurities that probably prevented me from pushing further and faster when we had some opportunities to do so. And I think that that was probably a mistake. But there's a Chinese proverb that says that the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago, and the second best time is today. And so all I can do is deal in the present and not the past.
I was actually surprised that you didn't reference losing the dreads. I thought that might have been your biggest.
Actually, no. I'm actually very, very pleased with my new look. I did have dreadlocks for a while, but I was a season for that, and it's over.
If you could put it on at any theater, anywhere in the world, where would you most like to put Torn on?
It's funny you say that. I'm actually applying to do something. I won't talk too much about it, but I'm applying for an opportunity to do it in Asia right now, so that would be pretty cool. But I can tell you, it's funny because, Torn is my first kid majorly, and now 16-19 is the second kid, so I would be happy to do either of them anywhere that people would come and want to support it and be excited and to learn from it. So, but big stages are fun. I'll be frank with you. I performed on some big stages. We've done stuff at the Airy Crown, the Chicago Theater, and that kind of thing. But I can tell you, I enjoy the little small dinner theater spot that we use too, the intimacy of it. So I don't really care where we go. I just enjoy connecting with audiences.
All right, and final question. Outside of anything that you've written, what production would you most like to be a part of, either behind the scenes or on stage?
Wow, that's a great question. My two favorite Broadway shows are Smokey Joe's Cafe and Bring in the Noise, Bring in the Funk. Both were pretty amazing. I saw them in college. They were kind of life-changing shows at that point. I'm a big Michael and Janet Jackson fan, so if I could just be if I could hold up a light at a Michael Jackson or Janet Jackson show, I think I'd be thrilled,
So you're saying that would be a real thriller for you?
Bingo, it would be. Thank you. It would be. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for it to come out, Dave.
Well, come on.
It took a while, but you got it. Yeah, come on, right. You beat it, Dave. How about that? You just beat it, okay? So.
All right. Well, Ted Williams III, 1619, coming August 24th. You'll find the details at tedwilliamsthe3rd.com. And the third is spelled III for those curious. Yep. Well, Ted, thanks so much for taking some time out this evening to join us on the Gifts of Glory podcast. I'll give you the final word.
The final word is whatever gift you have inside of you that God has given you, let it out. Because I'm a believer that gift, if it's not let out, the world might be missing the unique contribution that you have, and no one else can do what God has given you to do, so go for it. That's my final word.
Amen. Ted, you take care of yourself. Say hey to the missus and to the children, and we'll talk to you soon.
I certainly will, Dave. Thank you for having me, and God bless you, and this work that you're doing is fantastic. And I look forward to supporting you in all of your efforts as well. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.